Oh, yes, everybody. This is the Flex Network. Sorry, my mic is cutting out because I'm getting a little too crazy here. It doesn't know what to do.
It didn't cut out over here.
It didn't cut out. Oh,
Nope,
maybe I was
we're
just going a
good.
little too crazy over here. But
Too
yes,
crazy is good.
NFL draft talk. We are getting ready for this 2020. We're going to help your dynasty leagues. Next to me, as always, Flex Shane. We can find him and I at the Flex Network 1. Flex Shane, what's going on, brother?
What is going on, Matthew?
Hey, man.
I'm excited, man. This is going to be awesome.
And below us here, one.
Alan Slazlowski.
Yeah, did Matt cut out for you also?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, Matt probably has to restart. I think he was about to introduce me as the illustrious.
Yes.
What's up, guys? Yeah. So, Shane, what'd you think of the draft, man? I mean, this seemed. I don't know if we were just starved for sports. It's like that first peanut butter and jelly sandwich after you've been starved for like 5 weeks,
or it's like the 4-hour hike, and then you're having like your PB and J's at the top of the mountain, right?
There you go. Go. But yeah, I mean, I love the draft anyway, but just being able to really get into it and watch it, and the analysis was great. I thought it was awesome.
Well, I mean, just from like a pure ratings perspective, it was up 30% from last year, and it was actually the highest rated draft, as we figured it would be in terms of viewership. So, I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yep. Yeah. No, I mean, it was about 15 million people watched. I mean, imagine if there was an actual real football game on, what kind of ratings that would have done. I mean, if there was a real football game on, you'd be looking at Super Bowl numbers for even like a preseason game.
Well, that's what's kind of crazy, right? Like, so many people were talking about, well, why is Roger Goodell still going to push forward with the draft? Well, listen, the NFL is a business. They understand that there's pretty much no competition right now for entertainment, and they were the top dog, and the ratings proved it.
Can you guys hear me or not?
Yes, yep. Now we can hear you.
Oh my gosh. I don't know what. I think it's because my daughter's on the Wi-Fi here, and everybody in my neighborhood's on full entire quarantine here. But I am back. You guys here, tell. I just want to start with the quarterbacks here, guys. 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks go to NFL teams where it is clear that they are going to be sitting and waiting at least a year, multiple years.
Whoa. Stop right there.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Who's waiting a year to play?
Jordan Love.
Oh, okay. That's it, though.
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts, I expect him to play a lot this year, more as like in the Taysom Hill sort of vein.
So do we like that, though?
For fantasy?
Yeah, for fantasy. Do we? I mean, Jalen Hurts was almost a nuts 201 in Superflex, pre-draft. But now I find it very difficult to even draft him in the second round.
I think I would take a flyer on him in the middle of the second round. I mean, the thing about a guy like Jalen Hurts, I love him because, like, I don't know if you guys follow him at all on Twitter or Instagram or any of those platforms, but look, he's so excited to be an Eagle that, like, he's talking as if he is the starter. Like, that's the kind of presence that guy brings to a locker room. And the reality is that Carson Wentz has been injured so many times, and he hasn't even made it through a season. So I think that Jalen Hurts is the kind of player that if he can get a hold of the reins, he's going to go all Gardner Minshew, and he could take over that offense. Like, he can get it done, and he hopefully can stay healthy. And he's got that X factor because he's good with his legs too. So look, in a Superflex league, quarterbacks are valuable. If you can get him in the middle of the second round, I think there's absolutely where he could be taken and should be taken.
Saz, what do you think?
With Jalen Hurts, I mean, I think the middle of the second round in your Superflex league is going to be a little rich. I think it's perfectly defensible. But when you're staring down the barrel of like Denzel Mims and some of those running backs that went in the fourth round, it's going to be hard to pass on those guys for Jalen Hurts. But I can certainly see if you were quarterback needy team. I don't think it's a luxury pick at all. I think that would be a tough one. But yeah, end of the second, beginning of the third. But I can understand if someone went sooner than that.
Yeah, some have theorized that I'm on Jerry Jones's boat. And on the other side of the boat, Jerry Jones, he invited me on here. He's got a piano. Of course he does. No, but I'm finding that this draft has really I don't think it went the way, fantasy Twitter, draft Twitter, and real NFL definitely did not mix this year at all. At all. I mean, let's talk about the running backs here. Okay, Jonathan Taylor goes to the Colts.
But before you go off the quarterbacks, do we agree that the first three guys or the first three quarterbacks that went are all going to start day one? Or we don't agree?
Yes.
The only guy who might not start day one
that.
is Tua. I mean, if his health isn't 100%, the only reason health.
I mean, what's wrong with him?
Well, I don't know. I mean, nobody really knows. I mean, he looks fine, right?
Yeah.
He looks fine.
I mean, I don't think they would have taken him at 5 if they thought he was a problem.
What about this? What about late in the second round? Who are you going to go with? Van Jefferson. Yeah, I like Van Jefferson, but let's say Jacob Eason, late in the second round, you're staring down the barrel of a I don't know, someone trashy like a Duvernay or something like that, where man, if you're a quarterback needy team, Jacob Eason's might by the end of the first year take the entire reins of the team over. What if Philip Rivers comes out and just stinks? What if he stinks? What if he's not able to get the offense lit up apart? Go ahead.
I said if he comes out and stinks.
Well, wait, do you think he's just going to come out and throw a stinker right out the gate?
Was he good last year? I mean, he was like, if you had him in Superflex leagues, you were like, oh my God. It was literally like having Mitch Trubisky. It was really bad.
I like Mitch, though. I like Mitch when they get him out there running and gunning. I don't necessarily like Mitch as a pocket passer, but,
The beginning of the end of Philip Rivers was when in week 16, 2 years ago, he put up 5 points in your fantasy playoffs. that was the beginning of the end of Philip Rivers in my mind.
Yeah, we hate Philip Rivers, but I mean
think about the class he came in with. Eli out of the league. Big Ben. No one is betting on Big Ben coming back and looking anything like he was before. I mean, that class they're at the end of the rope. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's a tough slug. I'm surprised that Cam Newton still hasn't been signed. Like, that is the one I just can't believe it. I mean, I know we were talking rookies today, but I think the Colts would have had a lot more upside with Cam than Philip Rivers.
I think it's important to kind of talk not just about the actual rookies, but in the context of teams. So Jameis Winston, I mean, he went to, or looked like he's going to be signed with New Orleans. I think that's a great fit.
Oh yeah.
Well, especially for Michael Thomas's dynasty value. A lot of people are a little scared off Michael Thomas because Drew Brees ain't going anywhere. But now you might be right back on the train here with a downfield passer as Jameis. We love that. Jameis. I mean, Shane had the perfect landing spot for a Jameis Winston here last night. Go ahead, Shane.
Oh God. Look, we're talking about
Jameis Winston goes to the Raiders,
or to
it's
the Raiders,
all over.
Yes.
It's all over. Okay, Bowden, Edwards, freaking Henry Ruggs. I mean, come on.
On a couple of podcasts, I thought that Pittsburgh would have been a better spot for him because of all the receiver talent, and that Big Ben is, like I said, he's probably what's his under over for games? 7.5. I mean, it does not look like he is. It looks like he's kind of on the ropes, like I said, at best.
Well, it's funny, Al. You said nobody right now is betting that Big Ben's going to be anything that he was. The only group of people that might think that are actually like the Steelers organization. They're probably delusional at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, I'm saying he could be, but I mean, if you're a team that's in win now mode like the Steelers, why are you betting on that?
Snowman says, who is your steal pick for the draft for fantasy purposes? We'll go to Shane first. I know this is a rocket question. We weren't prepared for it. We actually came into this not prepared at all. So we're just shooting the shit here. Winston's going to be a Saint. Yep. I think
a guy that you want to take a chance on it's actually a guy that Al kind of warmed me up to. I wasn't as high on him leading into the process. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, when they drafted Anthony McFarland, and to me, that is kind of like a dream landing spot because as much as we like James Conner and he's got a good story, they're not absolutely sold on him, right? And like when you look at the actual draft capital involved in a guy like a James Conner, what was it? Middle of the third round is when they picked him up last year. So it's not as if it's completely out of the realm of possibility. Here we go, 3.41. was when he was drafted last year. So I don't think like a guy like Anthony McFarland, who is kind of a truck, right? Like he's only 5'8", but he's 208 pounds.
He's fast though. He's fast.
He's fast, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of player that I like.
4.44 speed, I believe.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I guess kind of like a pre-draft darling that people expected would drop, but Tyler Johnson going to Tampa Bay. If you're talking about a flyer, I think a guy like Tyler Johnson, I mean, he's got the athleticism. Excuse me, he has the numbers. I don't know why the hell he fell. I mean, it seems like it's still a mystery why he fell, but a guy like Tyler Johnson late,
kind of like
that
how
could absolutely be a steal.
Kind of like how Kelvin Harmon fell last year, right?
Yeah, it was exactly like that.
So says, who do you think? What, maybe
like
a steal.
Like meaning like who's a value in rookie drafts? Is that really or
not
like
in rookie drafts, but in the real NFL draft? What team do you think got a steal for fantasy?
Oh, okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. So in the real draft, what team? Okay, that's an interesting question. So they'd had to go in the third round or later, I guess, is what you're saying.
I would say third round or later. I mean, you could have got a steal in the second round, maybe, but yeah.
Okay, I got another answer for that.
Well,
okay, give me a chance. Jeez.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the actual answer I have is someone that you just kind of poo-pooed a minute ago. Is I like out of Texas Devin Duvernay. Now that it's who landed on the Ravens. I don't see a lot of difference between him and some of these guys that went in the second round. I mean, he's fast. He's just again he's got pushed down the board. We'll see. If your guy Shane Miles Boykin doesn't step up, that's Duvernay's role to get. So maybe that's someone you could look at. Again, I'm not super excited about him, but well, good value.
Duvernay is interesting because you said he's fast. He ran a 4.29, so he's quick.
Yeah.
Sully from Houston here is Flexmatic Cliff K's house. Yes, I am. Yeah, no, I had theorized earlier. I'm actually on Jerry Jones's boat. I'm on the other side of it in that monster megalith. No, but my steal of the draft, as far as fantasy purposes go, can you not imagine by week 8 that Antonio Gibson has the lead running back role in Washington, completely torching the name of Darius Guiche?
I mean, you think Geis, Bryce Love, we're just forgetting about them? We just think
I'm thinking Bryce Love, definitely is going to run the Chris Thompson role. That I'm not really too concerned about Bryce Love's outlook and still, but Geis hasn't been able to stay on the field. Now if you're gonna bring somebody in, why not bring the guy that went into the combine as a wide receiver? Okay, in case you need to use him if Geis isn't there, or you want to put him in the running back room to push Geis. Either way, you come out ahead, and you're not spending a lot of draft capital with a third round pick.
Now, this is the New York business person in me, and if I was his agent, I'd be like, no, you're a wide receiver, because who gets more money with contracts, right?
Yep. But his jersey number was 24.
I mean,
and they announced him as a running back.
But that's what I'm saying is that I would have come out. I would have come out and said, yeah, I'll play whatever position you want. Just call me a wide receiver.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, up until his name was called by Goodell as a running back, he had done that. He had trended that way as a wide receiver, worked out with the wide receivers at the combine, but was clearly a hybrid. But I would just like to say for a third round draft capital, which gives him opportunity, which gives him the light at the end of the tunnel as playing time.
Sure.
Another weapon for Haskins, my guy this year, Haskins. I'm going to put my foot down for Haskins this year. He avoided all bomb drops in the draft this year. I'm going to say Haskins is going to come out this year, a high-end wide receiver, a high-end QB2. Everybody on that team takes a step forward. Their defensive line is nasty. If you've seen, who it's just they have a lot of potential, the Redskins. So that's who I say. Go ahead, Shane. You got another one here?
Well, I got two really. They went back to back, which I actually thought it was a typo because I was on Twitter. I was kind of like working on some show sheets and stuff like that. I had the draft on my TV, and then I heard Lynn Bowden Jr. drafted by the Las Vegas Raiders, and then Brian Edwards started popping up in my timeline to the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm like, what the hell is happening right now? Turnover. Oh, yeah, Brian Edwards was just drafted. I think those guys back to back, with, of course, like Henry Ruggs in the first round. Las Vegas is getting pretty sick right now, and I love that.
Yeah. Hey, I just put up on the screen share. I'm in the middle of a dynasty rookie draft right now. If you want to take a look at it, go ahead, put it up for a second. Look at it's a super flex tight end premium. Look at this steal I just got in the pick 4, guys. Look at this steal.
I saw that on Twitter, man. That's crazy.
Are you
That's
kidding
wild.
me here? Look at this. This is going on right now. This is live, this draft.
I love it. Joe Burrow 1.04, a steal and super flex. But that's where he's going to go. It seems as if the whole entire narrative on Superflex this year and likely moving forward until you get a guy like Trevor Lawrence, until you get a guy like Kyler Murray. We love Joe Burrow. I mean, we love Joe Burrow. We love Tua. We love him. But, you think
those running backs just going to get too pushed up?
Well, if it wasn't for Elaire, going to Kansas City, it wouldn't really be a conversation,
Shane was asking me about like who I have atop the heap, and this is the thing I don't understand. I guess I do understand it, but who do you consider a better player right now? Kerryon Johnson or Damian Williams? I think it's an obvious answer, right?
Yes, Damian Williams.
Right. And so that's the guy that Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's got to compete with. DeAndre Swift has to compete with a brutal Kerryon Johnson. Why aren't we talking about Swift as the number one running back? Is it because the teams are just such a disparity in offense?
No, I think it's because they're very similar players. They don't starkly contrast each other. And so it just seems to me like it's 1A, 1B, whoever's got the hot hand, and with no, obviously they drafted Swift high. They're going to give him the ball. They're going to play him. But the ambiance behind the Lions organization, nobody enjoys being there. I don't know if you heard the report from Damian Snacks. He said basically he got there and then realized he was going to just basically wait a year to get out of there. He knew he's going to just not a team he wants to play for, a city, an organization. They run things a little bit differently, but that's what they said about the Patriots team too. A lot of people don't enjoy going to play for the Patriots because it's a system there. They don't reward young, stellar performance necessarily. They reward hard work and nose grind in football. And so it may not be the place that you'd like to go, but maybe Swift, what do you think, Says? You think he pulls out 15?
Shane had a reply. Go ahead. And then I'll answer after that. Go ahead.
Look, what's funny? If we like this time last year, if you asked who's a better player, Damian Williams or Kerryon Johnson, I think most people probably would have said Kerryon Johnson. Look, he's obviously battled injuries, but the fact that he's not even in the conversation with a guy like Damian Williams tells me that Detroit messed up. They messed up by not using him properly. However that is, I just feel like I have no
Kerryon Johnson.
Yeah, Kerryon Johnson. I just feel like I don't have any confidence in this coaching staff. Now, from a pure fantasy perspective, if they use him the way that he should be used, I think that he probably should be getting between 15 to 20 touches a game because that's the kind of talent that he is. He's likely going to be closer to 12 to 15, which isn't horrible to start. But I worry that even like Matt Patricia is the kind of freaking coach where he doesn't just play hot hand. He plays, I only want to have X number of touches in DeAndre Swift's hand. I only want X number of touches in Kerryon Johnson's hand. And he won't just roll with the hot hand, even though friggin' DeAndre Swift is going to come out and be going like 6.5 yards per carry or whatever some crazy number is going to be. He's going to like, no, we cannot do this. And that's what worries me about it.
Yeah. The last thing I would want to add to that before we move on is that do you guys remember our friends over at Roster Watch when they came back and they were talking about Kerryon Johnson? They said that Kerryon Johnson himself said that he was a committee back. He wasn't right, and he thrived better in a committee in a 12 to 15 touches role. If you look at DeAndre Swift's his years in school, he was like a 12 to 14 touch guy. He peaked around 16 touches a game in this last season. So combine those 14 touches for Kerryon with about 15, and there's your running game. Those guys might really excel. Now, again, I don't expect them to be, a Kerryon Johnson to go away or to be an elite RB2, but I think that there's room here for DeAndre Swift to finish as like the RB11 on the year, and certainly to be a case to be made for a top 2 or 3 running back in the class.
Dang, RB11, that's a little high. I mean, for me,
right,
it
again,
seems
there's
like
the upside.
I feel like you're projecting. You got to look at.
That's the upside.
Let me ask you guys something. Let me as a bar here. So one of his best comparable players at playerprofiler.com is Miles Sanders. So do you think that if DeAndre Swift has a similar kind of season that Miles Sanders had last year in terms of success, we would consider that a success or a failure for a guy like DeAndre Swift?
I would say that, Miles Sanders was a tale of 2 seasons, wasn't it?
It was literally
it was literally for the first month and a half was like, oh my God, I cannot believe I drafted him. And then the last 5 or 6 weeks, you're like, oh my God, this guy's a first round pick next year. So, it's probably somewhere in between, leaning towards the latter.
I mean, I guess look, as much as we kind of shit on Detroit about doing everything wrong, I think that they did a good thing here. We can't get upset at Detroit for saying, hey, DeAndre Swift is still on the board. We need to take DeAndre Swift. Like, you can't get upset with that. But it's from a landing spot perspective, I'm not comfortable. I don't think it's going to be an absolute killer. I mean, to your point about DeAndre Swift only getting like 12, 13 touches a game at Georgia. I mean, that was actually one of the recruiting tactics that they use. They say, listen, we're going to use you. We're not going to work you to the bone so that you still have some tread left on the tire when you get to the NFL.
Or else you end up like Jonathan Taylor, and then the narrative on him is that he's been overused.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't win. You can't win with this.
You can't win, but where you can kind of get a good idea is that the running back cliff year is 25. Basically, once they hit 25 years old, you can kind of cast them out. So if you get X amount of carries before you get to the NFL, what's the idea? They're going to use you till you're 25, and then basically they're going to throw you away anyway. So
unless you're willing to work cheap.
Well, yeah, exactly. And maybe you are. Let's talk about Jonathan Taylor for a second here. How does Marlon Mack feel right about now? I mean, is he a corpse? Is he the corpse's bride? I mean, what is he here?
Let me put it this way. I've got Marlon Mack in one of my dynasty leagues, and I've been kind of trying to trade him, but I was being a little bit greedy. I wanted like a late first for him.
So greedy.
I was being a little greedy for him. And it was non-super flex, right? So that makes a difference. And nobody would give it to me. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to hang on to him. I wish I would have taken like an early second for him.
Yeah,
I should have taken an early second.
This is the story. Like Matt just said, it hit a really important point before this. He said, they'll get high usage until they're about 25, 26 years old, and then they're kind of they're mercenaries. They're not gonna be on one team. They're gonna fight for whatever flag is gonna pay for them. So this year, Todd Gurley, right? Next year, if they run the wheels off Todd Gurley,
well, and even Mel G a little bit.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon. There you go. But here you go. Is like Atlanta's going to be in the market for another 25-year-old running back on a 1-year deal. Why can't Marlon Mack be that guy next year? Why doesn't Indy run the wheels off him this year? I think people are going to be too low on Marlon Mack in redraft leagues, and I'm going to be getting him a lot in the 6th round this year.
A guy that seemed to come out unscathed, Cam Akers. Okay. Cam Akers, you really love the landing spot here at the Rams. One of the worst offensive lines, and Cam Akers is known for coming out of a system with one of the worst offensive lines. It's really a beautiful matchup if that team can try to move forward. They seem to want to do that. They seem to want to go also with a 2-headed running back system. We don't know that to be sure, and maybe the talent and the cream. This year, a big narrative has been the cream will rise to the top. They did that last year with A.J. Brown. Nobody knew who the quarterback was going to be. Nobody knew if he was going to, and he fell in drafts. He fell to 1.10, 1.11. Now you're licking your chops when you were down there having won your league, and now you get the beautiful lap handed to you, A.J. Brown. Cam Akers, same kind of deal. I feel like he's going to be going 1.05, 1.06, but I feel he's going to outproduce DeAndre Swift. He's going to outproduce, J.K. Dobbins, at least this year for sure. I don't know about next year. I don't know what the story is. Let's then now go to Dobbins, who also sits behind, a good running back.
Right. Yeah. You got these teams, everyone's really like, oh, Dobbins is going to play, but we're talking about dynasty here. Now, obviously in redraft, Dobbins, you have to be, he's probably going to be a double-digit player or a round 8, 9 player at best. But when you're talking about dynasty, I mean, the Ravens did this perfectly. Mark Mark Ingram heading into his age 31 season, right? Presumably this is it. They're Super Bowl or bust. I mean, if it doesn't go well, Dobbins will still get sprinkled in, but you don't want a rookie coming in on a Super Bowl contender, and that's what concerns me about Clyde Edwards-Helaire a little bit for redraft, is that you want these guys in year 2 to still be in that championship window, and that's exactly what Dobbins set up for. I think the real problem with Dobbins is not Mark Ingram, it's Gus Edwards, and meaning that Gus Edwards is effective
Mr.
and good.
Friggin' Al, staying true to being a wet blanket over here.
No, I
Gus
like Dobbins.
Edwards.
I like him, but I think that is the real problem with Dobbins' upside this year for sure. And moving forward, it's not going to be his backfield. I mean, Gus Edwards is a competent NFL player that takes touches away.
No, he is, and he's good, and he's effective with the ball in his hands. You could see a scenario where Baltimore goes right to a committee just like Philadelphia does, just to get the ball in Gus Edwards' hands more. Justice Hill, give him the ball more. You got J.K. Dobbins, you got Mark Ingram. I mean, you've got guys that can play, that are good. You have to believe that they want to run just a very fast-paced offense.
I think there's two sides you can look at this with the fact that he fell to Baltimore. So obviously the fact that there's such an electric offense, I believe they talk about the Alfred Morris corollary, right? Where you've got RG3 running the ball. He's always a risk, which means that they can't really stack the box against the running back. So that's a plus for J.K. Dobbins. A negative, obviously, is the fact that, it's the Cam Newton effect, where if Lamar Jackson is going to be rushing for all these touchdowns, aka versus Jonathan Stewart, J.K. Dobbins might not get as many touchdowns as you might expect on the 2-yard line, because they're going to run it in. Lamar's going to run it in versus giving it to J.K. Dobbins to get those touchdowns. But in terms of upside, I mean, look at Mark Ingram. I don't think people really had as much confidence in him last year, and he put up double-digit touchdowns in that offense. So to me, J.K. Dobbins walks in as the RB1 on that team. I really do.
That's a stiff. That's a stiff.
It's about draft capital. I mean, they took him at 2.23, and they wouldn't have spent that draft capital on a running back unless they wanted to start that running back.
What do you think, Says? You think he's the RB1 in Baltimore?
Mark Ingram?
Oh yeah, no,
JK.
No, I think it's Mark Ingram. I mean, he was elite last year. I mean,
that's what I think too. But I think when you talk about sub packages on defense, really you're just interjecting speed, to that third down sub package. Same thing.
Remember in the real NFL playoffs, that team looked like it didn't have its full head on straight without Mark Ingram. When Mark Ingram missed games in the playoffs, it was like, Lamar's going to have to do even more. Mark Ingram was a huge piece of that team, major running threat, major elite pass blocker from what I saw in the playoff in the season, and the guy can catch the football. I mean, he's one of these guys that's aging pretty well as a running back in the NFL.
Oh yeah. Plus, I mean, you want a guy like that for sure to come and have the crown as RB1 in that running back, that office that you go to every day when you check into work as a Baltimore Raven. And I mean, veteran presence on that defense, veteran presence on that offense is really what that team's about. I think that's why they're having so much success. They run a really good locker room. They just have a really nice team. Okay, so let's talk about Cam Akers a little bit more. Are we afraid of Henderson at all? I mean, do we think
get out of here?
Is he done?
Get out of here.
Darrell Henderson, is he done, and is Cam Akers just going to run away with that job from the preseason? What do you think, Shane?
Matthew, to say that Darrell Henderson is done is to assume that he actually was ever around in the first place.
LOL.
He never was.
What do you think, Says?
Yeah, no, I think
Shane's on fire here today, by the way.
Angry.
Yeah, everybody expected them to draft a running back. I mean, it was kind of obvious. I mean, I think that Darrell Henderson is right back where you thought he would be. I mean, no one thought he was going to be the lead guy. I think this hurts Malcolm Brown. Not that anyone was drafting him anyway, but yeah, I mean, this is going to be, especially in the beginning of the season, is going to be a committee leaning towards Henderson, and it probably will level off as more as a 50-50 split. Let's not forget how excited we were about Darrell Henderson last year. When we start a new job, when we do anything new, sometimes it takes a minute to get into the rhythm. And it's been an overused narrative over the last 24 hours, but the shortened practice time, the less preseason games, Sean McVay's offense is not like easy to learn. Darrell Henderson's got a year up on the books on him. So I don't think it's discarding him for dynasty. I mean, Darrell Henderson's value's never been lower. If you can get him for a late second round pick right now, I'd buy. I'd be more interested in Henderson over some of those guys going at the end of the second round in non-superflex.
So what we're going to have to do here, and this is something I think we got to start pushing for, but I need to get Byron. We need to get Byron on the cast here. Byron Lambert likes Keyshawn Vaughn over Cam Akers, goes to probably, if not the best landing spot of all the running backs, Tampa Bay. Keyshawn Vaughn to Tampa Bay with draft capital.
Third round is right on that cusp of capital, right?
It's cusp, but I mean, it's not the fourth. It's not the fourth. It's not the fifth. It's it's nowhere else.
I'm with you.
So I'm saying that they're willing to give him the ball. They're willing to give him a shot. Ronald Jones is clearly not the guy that he was. He's shown some sort of a life, last year. But it's Tom Brady's team now. And if Keyshawn Vaughn gets into Tom Brady's locker room and proves himself to Tom Brady, then he's the guy. That's exactly what James White did. That's exactly what all those pass catching running backs did for Tom Brady.
James White took a couple of years to get going, though. That's what I'm nervous about in the Tom Brady offense.
Once he did, but once
right.
Tom
it took years.
Full trust in him.
Right. How long's Tom? I mean, I agree with
Tom's
everything.
Going balls to the wall. I mean, he's got 2 years. He knows. I mean, they got 2 years to win a Super Bowl. They know that. That's why he's brought in. I mean, it might happen a lot quicker this year.
Yeah, Vaughn's an older rookie too. He's going to be age 24. That's why. Yeah. So he's a win now guy. I like the spy. Everything you said was right on. You liked Vaughn a lot, right, Shane? I remember when we were talking. You kept bringing up Keyshawn Vaughn, and I kept kind of ignoring it a little bit.
Yeah, I had Vaughn as my top 5 running backs were going. Then I had Judy and Lamb. Well, Lamb first, then Judy, and then I had Vaughn.
Yeah,
that's where I had him placed in. So I like Keyshawn Vaughn. I didn't honestly think that he would ever fall to Tampa Bay. Like, this is kind of like the perfect situation for a guy like Keyshawn Vaughn, who I don't think was going to be drafted in the second round. Like, he's just not level of player. But to go in the third round to a Tampa Bay, where a lot of people wanted like Clyde Edwards-Helaire to go, to me, that's like the nut spot for a guy like Keyshawn Vaughn. And it makes it, I think, a little bit more difficult. Like, I kind of want to put our nuts on the table here, and I'd like to hear what your top 5, like what your order is for your top 5, and then
for dynasty or redraft
for your dynasty rookies, running backs. And then I want to know, okay, Keyshawn Vaughn, is he like a little? I'm assuming he's your 6, right? Just assuming Keyshawn Vaughn's your 6.
Well, Keyshawn Vaughn, I just saw on a very high level Superflex mock, almost the second that the draft was over, went RB3. Keyshawn Vaughn 1.05.
That seems aggressive.
I mean, it is aggressive, but he went 3, RB3. It went Jonathan Taylor, Clyde Edwards, then Vaughn, and he went 5 overall. But I mean, it is aggressive, but if you believe in it and you believe in him, you can't argue it.
Yeah,
really.
I mean, of course not. Yeah, I mean, nobody knows. I mean, so top 5 real quick.
I want to know your top 5, Al.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna be married to
not in stone, but just kind of right now, your first initial, like how you're.
I'm having a lot of trouble. I told you this, pre-draft that Swift was a bulletproof prospect. I'm sticking with that. It's hard not to put Taylor up at the top for dynasty, but so I'm going to stick with DeAndre Swift at the top. Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Taylor are 2 and 3. I don't know, whatever order you want to put them in there. And then I mean, you're right. I mean, you have to go Cam Akers and Keyshawn Vaughn. I mean, how can you get away from that? And then I saw. Oh, wait a second. Sorry, Dobbins. Right. Dobbins looks like he's going to open up next year, so he's probably 3 or 4. All right. So I didn't answer your question. This is how I'm going to get you straight. All right. I'm just going to give you the straight answer without explanation. Swift 1.
Yep.
Jonathan Taylor 2. Clyde Edwards-Helaire 3. Dobbins 4. Cam Akers 5. And then 6 would be Vaughn.
I mean, and that's great. Now as we segue into wide receivers here, Judy Lamb, everybody was going Lamb or Judy. After landing spots, it seems a little bit suspect to put Lamb over Judy? What do we think?
For Dynasty, it's still got to be Lamb if you like Lamb.
Still got to be Lamb. I mean, I know with all the contract, after 2 years, Amari's not really due any solid money. Okay, so if they wanted to either, let Lamb take over, or if Lamb is taking over himself, then I get it. But man, I mean, if you talk about 2 years of production, I could see Judy having a better season first couple years.
I mean, go ahead, Shane. You look like you got something there.
I just Al, like you and actually Byron Lambert were probably the two highest guys I know on Cortland Sutton, and I love Cortland Sutton, but you were like you bought him before he hit that peak even last year.
Yes.
Like you knew what you expected, right? And I think we all kind of thought it. Look, Jerry Jeudy is a very special player. Cortland Sutton is still there. Man, like they drafted KJ Hamler at 214. Like, there's going to be a lot of mouths to feed here. They want to run the ball. I think they got Melvin Gordon. They've got
Noah Fant.
They've got Noah Fant. So I think a lot of this is going to hedge on. Is Drew Lock going to take a step forward? There were a lot of Drew Lock haters out there last year. I think I don't know how you feel on him, Matt, but I feel like Alan are kind of like generally ahead of consensus on Drew Lock. Like,
oh yeah,
I believe that
he's a buy. He's a buy right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. Okay.
If his owners are not going to sell him though, right? I mean, at this point,
now,
he was a buy. He was a buy before the draft. Now he might be a sell because of the perception. I mean, like, you can't not rank him in the top 13 QBs for Dynasty.
Drew Lock on Twitter during the draft was the best. He just kept having the sunglasses emoji where it's like Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, it's like.
Well, let me ask you, which Drew you like better? Do you like Drew Brees or Drew Lock for redraft?
Well, I don't know. I like Breeze. I like consistency.
Yeah.
I would rather not take a couple down games versus they're out to win a Super Bowl there. And
yeah, exactly. Which means they're good. You get swindled with the Taysom Hill. Yeah, you got the injury risk with Breeze. Drew Lock, man, he's shown it's not like we're just guessing with him. He showed 40-point fantasy point game upside already, like 2 or 3 times. He's already revealed it.
He's a DGAF QB too, which is something I really like.
If a QB shows a pulse as a rookie, you're excited. This guy showed like Josh Allen fantasy level upside as a rookie.
Daniel Jones, does he take a step back or a step forward now? Because it seemed as if Daniel Jones was ready to take that next step. He had created something out of Darius Slayton, I think is his name, who I bought. Just recently, I bought Slayton and Deontay Johnson in a trade where I involved getting rid of Marlon Mack. Ha, Shane. I was not caught with my hand in the cookie jar. I got rid of Marlon Mack and Leonard Fournette, which Leonard Fournette surprisingly didn't get dealt anywhere after coming out that he basically hates his QB1 in Jacksonville. But he's not on the Mustache Mountain, which is understandable, I guess. LaVisca's coming in town there. I mean, DJ Chark, LaVisca Chenault on the outside. You got Fournette coming down the middle, Gardner Minshew. I mean, it's a really good draft for QBs, this year. Not a phenomenal draft for RBs, just as far as landing spots. Who are we missing in wide receiver that, to me, Pittman showed real signs of life here, going early second round to Indianapolis. What do you feel about Pittman, Says?
Oh, I love Pittman. Pittman was, I was talking to Shane pre-draft and telling him that this guy belonged in the first round, not the second round. He went the second pick of the second round, so it's basically like being a first round pick. Yep. And I was
compensatory first. That's a compensatory first.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, no, my battle plan as a Jet fan was for them to take a tackle and then take Pittman in the second. But as it got closer,
you got a good consolation.
Ooh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No. Pittman's the real deal. He can. He's got number one receiver size, but he can also he to me he looks like he's got the upside of Michael Thomas. Big receiver is going to catch. He can catch 100 passes in any season. I love him.
I think he's more Keenan Allen. Obviously,
sure. Why not?
That fits with Phillip Rivers, but that's all. I feel like that's the upside. Where Michael Thomas's upside is, he's head and heels over most receivers in the league in general. Yeah. But would you draft Pittman with Phillip Rivers, or would you draft Denzel Mims with Sam Darnold?
For Dynasty?
Yeah.
I guess we don't know who the QB is going to be in Indy next year. It could be another.
Answer the question, says.
I would go Mims.
Okay, so even though Pittman had the higher draft capital, it's probably got a more direct line to wide receiver 1 opportunity than Mims. You're still going Mims due to the youthful QB. And
I have them back to back in my rankings.
Okay. Shane, who do you like in wide receiver 2nd or 3rd round? Guys, nobody's talking about T. Higgins. Nobody's talking about
Jalen Reagor.
I just wanted to mention, like, as it pertains to like a Denzel Mims, I tweeted out at the end of the 1st round because I was like in a group chat with my buddies and stuff about, okay, next pick has got to be Mims. Next pick has got to be Mims, and it didn't happen in the 1st round. So I tweeted out that Denzel Mims to me feels kind of like DK Metcalf last year, like a lot of pre-draft hype. And he just didn't quite go, and then he ends up landing like in a pretty nice spot at the end of the 1st round.
I think Sez had the best comp. Go ahead.
What was your comp?
Dorial Green Beckham.
Well, I said the range of outcomes is Dorial Green Beckham on the low side and peak Josh Gordon on the upside. I mean, it literally is. You would not be surprised if Denzel Mims just totally busts, or he's literally like the 5th best receiver in the league in 2 years.
I love it. Well, interesting, Matt, you were asking about T. Higgins. One of his best comp players is the aforementioned Joshua Gordon.
T. Higgins is not my favorite, but you look at the story, and I feel like the story is really what it is. He apparently was a Bengals fan, an AJ Green fan. I mean, to go to that offense, learning under AJ Green, clearly a very similar size profile to AJ Green, just a taller, kind of a lankier guy. But draft Twitter was not high on T. Higgins at all. And, I guess we'll have to see what happens. I don't expect much from him in year 1, just because that offense is ideally ready to go. You drop Joe Burrow on that offense, and the sky could be the limit. And I'm interested to see, but I'm not a big fan of T. Higgins, but it's clearly an AJ Green, corollary there for the coming years. Shane, again, so what about Chase Claypool going to Pittsburgh? Is he going to play tight end?
I don't know. Didn't they just trade for a guy, or didn't they just sign Evan Ingram? I'm not going crazy, right?
Did they sign Evan Ingram?
Evan Ingram?
Not
Evan Ingram. Eric Ebron.
Eric Ebron. The other EE. Thank you. My bad.
Shane was breaking news like he's Ian Rappaport on here.
Yeah. Jeez.
Oh, God. Jeez. No, okay. So the thing about a guy like Chase Claypool is, I think that, I think Miles Boykin, actually, he's the guy that comes to my mind. It's just like an absolute athletic freak, but isn't necessarily a guy that I want on my fantasy team. I think that, again, as much as we were talking about Keyshawn Vaughn kind of falling to like the perfect spot in the 3rd round, I feel like if Chase Claypool was going to go to any random team and to be able to succeed as a wide receiver, I feel like Pittsburgh is probably that spot. It's a bit of an indictment on James Washington, I'd say. But I mean, Chase Claypool, he's
plays wide receiver.
Kid.
If he plays wide receiver, you're right. It's a little bit of an indictment on James Washington. But if they play a 2 tight end set and they just throw Claypool out there running tight end routes as a wide receiver, he's definitely not blocking. Neither is Ebron, though. And they clearly want to run a much faster paced offense, which we do not believe that Big Ben can run. So maybe they're going to go out there gunslinging it to go 0 for 17 and grab Trevor Lawrence. What do you think?
No, get out of here with that.
No, I know. It's early.
Who do you think's the worst team in the league this year? Who do you think's literally? I mean, it's so early to guess, but if you have to guess, who's going to get that first overall pick next year?
Dang.
It's kind of tough right now. Like,
I mean, listen, nobody knows.
If I took off this hat, right, and they didn't have a coach named Bill Belichick, couldn't you argue the Patriots on paper at least are one of the weakest teams in the league right now?
But they have Bill Belichick.
They have Bill Belichick.
Yeah,
you're right.
Okay, so them Carolina would be one for me. Carolina. I mean, Carolina first team ever to go 7 picks all defense.
Your guy Snowman says the Browns. I wouldn't. That's a bridge too far. Too soon, Snowman.
I think Browns had a fantastic draft. as an aside. I think Cleveland had a great. They got Jedrick Wills as offensive tackle. I mean, they have Jack Conklin. Like, man, they got Grant Delpit,
the league
LSU.
is so competitive. It is so competitive.
Really
You're
is
right,
good,
Des. Who's going to get the first?
I think the league favorites to be the worst team in the league would be, I think, the Jaguars have to be one of the top 3 teams.
I guess.
Right? Don't you think so? That they could be?
I would say they would probably be one. Indy would be another.
Well, they have a high floor though. They have a running game, you know.
I mean, they have a running game, but they're rookies. They're rookies with an old QB with no real look in sight for upside, but they do have a young defense and a good offensive line, which can get you far. I think one of my top wide receivers for landing spots, and just throw it in, Justin Jefferson. He's fantastic. He's gonna play. A lot of people had him going to the Eagles. I didn't like it, so that's what kind of made me lower on him. I was much higher on Rager. Just with the idea that Jefferson was going to Philadelphia. I did not like that landing spot, and I just thought anywhere else Rager was going to go, that he was going to command targets, versus Jefferson, to me, is a role player, which he went to the perfect offense where he can play that role, and that role is the Stephon Diggs role. Okay, Jefferson's going to step right in and play the exact same role as a safety blanket downfield across the middle, opposite that old outside. Yes.
Well, Adam Thielen plays the slot a lot, so I think there's some concern that Justin Jefferson can only play outside, but he had a 4.43 40. The reason I love Justin Jefferson so much, and that he's really grown on me through this draft process, is as you kind of like peel back the onion a little bit about these guys, is he came on, and yes, he was playing with a guy like Jamar Chase, but he was still a dog in that offense. And he started from nowhere. He's a local boy. He went to the local Destrehan High School, and he ended up signing with LSU. And I think, Matt, you and I were chatting about this last week. Like, he's just a guy who seems to be continuing to get better and better and better. Every time that he gets to that next level, he steps up. And that's the kind of player that I want. But, Matt, I got a question for you. You know how we talk about like weather and games and stuff like that? Do you worry about a guy who grew up in Louisiana going to a cold weather city like in Minnesota?
Well, I would. I would naturally. Mm-hmm. But it's not so much a cold weather to me when you're talking about Midwest, like anywhere in the middle of I guess New Orleans is kind of southern, but I care more about it if you got a California kid going to
like if Jared Goff was the QB of the Giants or the Jets. Or something
like that. But you say that, Shane, and you had Aaron Rodgers going from Cal to Green Bay, and it didn't seem to phase him at all.
Right, but he happens to be literally on the Mount Rushmore of QBs, though. Like,
but you're talking. But how do we know that's not what's to become, So
I think you're saying as the normal, not or as somewhere in the middle of that bell curve, not the ends of it, where
exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. So I got to sign off a little bit here. So what I wanted
we could wrap it here. We could wrap it.
Well, no, what I wanted to say for me is I just thought the worst draft of the night goes to the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, that was
if you think about it, how old is Tom Brady?
42. I mean, you can't compare Tom Brady.
40,
no, he's 42. He's 42.
42. Aaron Rodgers, 36 years old. Okay. If you don't tell me Aaron Rodgers is playing at least to as old as Brady, Aaron Rodgers still has a rocket of an arm, can still put it exactly where it needs to be. His game hasn't fallen off. I mean, it's not like you're looking at him like you're looking at Phillip Rivers. Okay. So for them to draft his replacement, not only do it, but they move up in the first round. They have two capable running backs that showed well last year.
Yeah, but again, okay, I just want to hold you there for a second. I've heard that narrative a lot, but remember, they're not going to. You just talked about how running backs, they're on their own at 25, 26. Both of those guys are free agents next year. AJ Dillon is for next year. He's not for this year.
Yeah, so but I don't mind that. Right. I don't mind that. What I'm saying is you had opportunities to get a different running back. AJ Dillon is more Derrick Henry than anything else. He's very one-dimensional. And I don't like that pick for that offense. I feel like it's a very one-dimensional offense already, a very old offense, a very running down the middle, a very send your top elite wide receiver down the line. You got two phases to that offense. There's no dynamicism. Is that the correct?
Hey, Shane, what could the Packers get for Aaron Rodgers in the trade market?
First, I would think.
All first? You don't think
Jacksonville
or first plus for sure? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like right now they traded Aaron Rodgers to
Jacksonville for pick 19 or whatever they had. Or what if he goes to the Raiders? Are you kidding me?
I would say New England.
Or New England, that doesn't matter. But why trade the guy?
Or maybe that's the Colts QB next year.
Why?
I don't think he's going to. Look, Aaron Rodgers is not going anywhere this year. They were in the freaking NFC Championship last year. They look good. You guys are right. I mean, like Aaron Jones, he overproduced, I would say, versus what we expected him to do. And I think they want to take some workload off. I mean, Matt LaFleur said it at the Combine that, hey, they have two good running backs that they like, but they want a third. And guess what? They went out and they drafted A.J. Dillon.
Should I cut Dexter Williams? Should I cut him now?
Man, depends how deep your dynasty league is. But if you're looking for cut candidates,
he's on the taxi squad. Actually, and then another thing before I wanted to sign off, somebody that really just watch out, by middle of the season this year, I wouldn't be surprised if Damian Harris is RB1 in New England. You just hear a lot coming that he's going to get a lot more workload. Sony Michel clearly isn't the guy, even though he got drafted in the first round. It's clearly a Bill Belichick thing where, hey, I don't care if you were drafted in the first round. This guy's worth playing time. He puts his nose down. He does a lot of things good, and he's young. He's younger. So I don't know, Damian Harrison escaped a bullet in the draft this year. And I feel like I feel like he's ready as RB1 in New England. So I'm going to wrap up here and I'll let you guys finish it out, but I love you guys. I want to get back into our post-draft mock draft. Let's get everybody that we had from pre-draft rocking it post-draft dynasty startup. Look out for that here. I'm gonna head out here, guys. Love you guys.
I mean, or we could just wrap it right here. It's fine. It's no big deal.
Let's just wrap it up.
All right. Well, for Flex Shane at the Flex Network 1, and Alan says Lowski, catch him writing and recording articles for Roster Watch, as well as the Flex Network at ALANSES Low Sky and DFS Army Geek. We're coming for you. Says Lowski, I'm going to need you to trade up from rookie 103 to 101 for your boy CEH, okay? And me, I am Flex Matt. This is the Flex Network.